بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I ask Allah Ta'ala to grant all of us the sincere intention and the proper comprehension. Allahumma ameen. So Shaykh Husaam, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, may Allah protect him and grant him a long life. He said, amongst what we should advise each other with, especially during this time, is what Allah said in the Quran. And he recited Surah Al-Asr. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And these three verses, they mean by time. So Allah swore by time that verily man is certainly in a state of loss, except those who believe and do righteous deeds and advise each other with the truth and advise each other with patience. So Allah the Exalted swore by time because it contains various amazing matters and so many changes, all of which signify the existence of Allah, the Creator. Some of the scholars said Al-Asr, which can mean time, they said here it means Salatul Asr, the Asr prayer, that Allah swore by the Asr prayer, which is the mid-afternoon prayer. And Allah the Exalted said in the Quran, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, which means if you are thankful by not using your endowments to sin, then I will surely increase you. So Shaykh Husaam said that especially during this time of tribulations and afflictions and hardships, yani when these afflictions are prevalent, we should advise each other. He said if we meet each other, we should advise one another with the truth, meaning what is religiously correct. That is, to stay firm upon the truth, to follow the truth, to implement it, and remain firm upon it. Meaning, no matter how much the tribulations increase, no matter how much the enticing matters increase. Subhanallah. He said, do not sell your religion for a worldly matter. Even for all of the world's riches, do not sell your religion. Be firm upon the truth and be firm upon the creed, the belief that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. Hold fast to it. Bite down on it with your molars. And this is just a statement to mean hold tightly to it and do not let go. He said, don't let status, position, or money push you to leave out the true belief, the creed of al-Islam, just as you wouldn't let fear be a reason for you to leave out this religion. Remain firm upon the creed. So as you can see, brothers and sisters, he is implementing the advice that he's telling us to work with, which is advising each other. He's advising us with the truth and advising us to be patient with whatever hardships the Muslim is struck with. So he said, remain firm upon the truth and be patient. Be patient with what Allah the Exalted afflicted you with, from lack of money, poverty, loss of loved ones, illness, hardship, injustice, not getting something that someone wants really bad, for example. There are so many types of hardships, so many things that would pain the heart. But he's saying, be patient with that. Do not disobey Allah, he said. Do not leave out what Allah made an obligation upon you. And do not commit what Allah made unlawful upon you. Rather adhere to piety, God-fearingness, in both states. Yani adhere to piety when you're in a state of being endowed upon, and when you're in a state of being afflicted with hardships, also adhere to piety. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, عجبا لأمر المؤمن كل أمره له خير إن أصابته سراء شكر فكان ذلك خيرا له وإن أصابته ضراء صبر فكان ذلك خيرا له وليس هذا لغير المؤمن. The Prophet said, how amazing the situation of the perfect believer is. All of his situation is good for him. If he encounters joy, yani something that pleases him, happiness, ease, he thanks Allah, and that is good for him. Meaning that this thanking in this situation is good for him. The Prophet said, and if a calamity strikes him, he is patient with that, and that is good for him. And this is only for the believer. And so the Prophet is highlighting for us, alayhi salatu wassalam, the situation of the perfect Muslim, meaning the pious Muslim. The Muslim that fulfills all of their obligations and stays away from all of the haram. This is the perfect Muslim. The one that does not commit any sins. And so a person like that, if they are struck with a hardship, they are patient. They are patient with a good intention, and so they get rewarded for that. And if they are experiencing ease and happiness, then they thank Allah. They thank Allah for that. So they realize what they are in of ease and goodness and mercy from Allah, and they thank Allah Ta'ala. And that would be beneficial for them. So Shaykh Husaam continued to say, in a state of endowment, we thank Allah. And in a state of hardship and calamity, we are patient. This means during a state of endowment, we do not use what Allah endowed upon us to disobey Him. Rather, we use that endowment in obedience to Allah. He said, the obligatory thanking is not for you to merely say with your tongue, Alhamdulillah. No. Rather, the obligatory thanking, it means not using what Allah endowed upon you with to disobey Him. So he explains, he says, Allah bestowed eyesight upon you. So do not look at what Allah made unlawful. Yani don't use your eyes to commit a sin. Don't look at something which is haram for you to look at. It's forbidden for you to look at. He said Allah bestowed hearing upon you. So do not listen to what Allah made forbidden. Don't listen to the unlawful things. And that would include the unlawful music, like unlawful instruments, for example. These are not permissible to listen to. Like wind and stringed instruments, for example. Also, it's not permissible to listen to the conversation of some people who are speaking privately and they don't want other people to listen. And so eavesdropping would not be permissible. So a person needs to protect their ears from what Allah made forbidden. Subhanallah. And there's more than that, of course, that a person needs to protect their ears from. But this gives you an idea, of what we're saying. He said, Allah bestowed utterance, speech, upon you. So do not utter, do not say what Allah made unlawful. And the Prophet ﷺ said, أكثر خطايا ابن آدم باللسان, which means that most of the sins of the son of Adam are from his tongue. Subhanallah. Most of the sins that people commit, they are sins of the tongue. Yes, many people commit other sins, lots of other sins, but most of the sins in general that the human commits, that the human falls into, are sins of the tongue. And so it's a reminder for us how much we need to preserve the tongue and watch out. Keep a watch over our tongue and what the tongue utters. He said, Allah bestowed the use of hands upon you. You use your hands to what? To touch, to grab, to hold, to pick up things, for example. You might use your hands for other things as well, to hug someone, to shake someone's hand when it's lawful for you to do that, and so on. So he said, do not use your hand in disobeying Allah. Do not use your hand in disobeying Allah. Don't use your hand to steal, for example. Don't use your hand to break something which is not permissible for you to break. Don't break people's belongings, for example. Subhanallah, even one's own belongings, at times, because something would contain value, it wouldn't be permissible for one to break it and to throw it away, for example. So this is something to keep in mind of as well. Sometimes people, they own something, they have something, and they don't want it, and they might just break it, or they might just throw it away. However, religiously, it wouldn't be permissible because that thing has value, it holds value. And so it wouldn't be permissible to throw it away. Do not use your hand to disobey Allah. Don't hit someone unjustly. For example, hitting a Muslim on the face. This is not permissible. This is not permissible even if one was disciplining their own child, for example, as they say. It's not permissible to hit on the face. This is haram. This is forbidden in Islam. And still, there are some people, they might smack their child on the face. Also, some people, they use their hands to commit different sexual acts which are not permissible, which I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to delve into it, but for example, masturbation with one's own hand, this is not permissible. This is something that is haram. And unfortunately, this is something that there are many people that fall into, men and women. A'udhu billah. He said, Allah endowed upon you the ability to walk. Your legs and your feet and the ability to walk. He said, so do not walk or use your legs to disobey Allah. So walking towards committing a sin is not permissible. This is an impermissible walking. Like if a person went walking to commit adultery or fornication, for example, as zina, this is not permissible. This walking of theirs is not permissible in itself. Or if a person was walking to go and do something harmful unjustly to a Muslim, for example, then this walking of theirs would be unjust. Yani it's haram. It's not permissible. It's not a permissible walking. For example, he said, Allah endowed upon you with good health and well-being. So fulfill what Allah made obligatory upon you. And do not dare, he said, be imperious or arrogant or be unjust to the slaves of Allah. So how many people have good health and well-being and strength, however they don't pray? For example, many people, young ones and older people. There are teens that do not pray while they are pubescent and accountable. And there are people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s that don't pray. Subhanallah. Although they walk, for example, and they clean their house, and they might go for like a brisk walk every day just so they can remain healthy and in their mind, yani they're trying to lengthen their lifespan, yani they want an opportunity to live longer, for example. And so they do all of these things, but when it comes to prayer, they don't pray. Or, for example, there are people, brothers and sisters, that would clean their house, go outside, mow the lawn. If they have animals, for example, they walk around feeding all their animals. They walk around doing things, picking things out of the trees. They can walk. I'm establishing that these people, they can walk. However, when it comes to prayer, they sit down. They sit in a chair. This is not permissible for one to do. And the scholars said that their prayer would not be valid for them. If they're able to stand, but they sit for the obligatory prayer, their prayer wouldn't be valid. How can a person do that and not feel bad inside? That for the dunya matters, the worldly matters, they're walking around, they're putting energy, they're putting effort, they wake up early, they, for example, they'll be like, oh, let me take my supplements and eat a protein-rich breakfast, for example, so I can have this energy because I have all these things to do today. When it comes time to pray, they get a chair and they sit down. Subhanallah, isn't that really sad? It shows you where a person's heart is. When the effort only comes out for the dunya and it doesn't come out for the religious matters that you will be questioned about on the day of judgment, then I think you need to check yourself. If someone was living in that situation. And there are people like that. So if a person is able to stand for the prayer, they cannot sit. They cannot sit. Meaning, during al-qiyam, when they're standing up, like reciting al-Fatiha, you have to stand if you're able to stand. Now, there are people, they really cannot stand. They really cannot stand. And we see some of the very elderly people, truly they cannot stand. That's why they sit down. they have an excuse. But a person that you see, for example, going here and shopping for 2-3 hours on their feet, and then when it comes to prayer, they sit down, they will be asked about this on the Day of Judgment, and let them know that their prayer is not valid, meaning they have to make up those prayers if they were praying in this way. Subhanallah. Some people, brothers and sisters, they do whatever their nafs wants, whatever their desire calls them for, and they trick themselves into thinking that they will be safe. But the truth is the truth, and the religious law is the religious law. It's not going to change. So the person can implement it, and they will reap the benefits, or they can neglect what the religious law says, and they will reap the consequences of that, whether they like it or not. Shaykh Husaam, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, continued to say, and everything that Allah endowed upon you, meaning whatever that is, whether it's an endowment in your body or it's an endowment outside of your body, like something that you have around you or your house or your children, whatever it is, he said, do not use it, or if it's wealth, for example, do not use it for or spend it on except what Allah accepts. And again, how many people Allah granted them wealth, but they waste it. They waste it. Instead of doing something good with it that Allah would accept from them, with a good intention, something for their hereafter, they waste it. Subhanallah. And many people, they waste their wealth. And there are people that have money, even if they don't have that much, but it comes and goes, it comes and goes, and they might sit there, it might be said, and fantasize about things that they want to do, like good deeds, like, one day I will do this, one day I will do that. It's good that they have that desire to do that, but if they are living for year after year after year after year after year, and I can keep saying that, and money comes and goes and they don't do those good things, they don't donate, they say, I want to help the poor, or I want to do different charity work, and instead the money comes and they spend it every time on just things that they don't even need. I'm saying this because there are people like this. And they never get to do those good things that they want to do. I mean, never. Subhanallah. What excuse will they have? They've had so many opportunities to do that. There are people like this. He said, rather thank Allah for the endowments, and the endowments of Allah are so many. We cannot count them. We cannot tally them up. And there's an ayah in the Quran which means, if you try to count the endowments of Allah, you will not be able to. Meaning, due to their great number, you will not be able to count them. The air that we breathe is an endowment from Allah. The ease of breathing is an endowment from Allah. The water that we drink is an endowment from Allah. Subhanallah. People take these things for granted because they're easily accessible, right? We usually have them, like water every day, clean water, alhamdulillah. But somewhere in the world, there are people that do not have clean water. And we know that. We know that. Look at what's happening in Palestine and Gaza. A lot of people, they don't have water. They die of thirst and hunger every day. He said the food that we eat is an endowment from Allah. The good health that we have is an endowment from Allah. All that we are experiencing of ease and goodness, all of that is an endowment from Allah Ta'ala upon us. Our gathering for this session right now is a great endowment from Allah upon us. This is one of the great endowments from Allah upon us, because the one who attends a religious session for the sake of Allah and they are sincere, they will be rewarded greatly for that. SubhanAllah. And at times a person attends a lesson lillahi ta'ala for the sake of Allah, and if they were ill, for example, Allah would cure them. Allah would grant them the cure. Or if they had a hardship, it would be lifted. Or if they were in debt, for example, that debt would be fulfilled for them. Yani, the ease would come in these different matters. They would be experiencing some type of difficulty, a challenge in their life, and they still, while feeling that or while going through that, they attend a session for the sake of Allah, and the relief or the blessing or the goodness would come to them, the outcome that they are searching for. And this happens all the time. Yani, this happens many, many, many times for the Muslims. So he mentions again that Allah said what means, if you are thankful by not using your endowments to commit a sin, then I will surely increase you. This is the obligatory thanking. So it's not merely saying Alhamdulillah, thank you, O Allah. Rather, it is to not use the endowments that Allah granted us to disobey Allah. That's truly thanking Allah. And Shaykh Husaam said, the increase of endowment here is an increase in reward. So he said, at times, you would thank Allah for an endowment that you have by not using it to disobey Allah and so on. He said, and you would be increased in this endowment. Subhanallah. So at times a person would use an endowment that Allah gave them in the way that Allah accepts, and they stay away from the haram, and they thank Allah for that as well, even verbally with the tongue. They're very appreciative and they hold themselves back from committing sins with it, and Allah would increase them in that endowment. So if it was money, for example, and they don't use it to commit any sins, rather they use it in the way that Allah accepts, and they're thankful for this endowment, at times they would be increased in it for this reason. He said, and you will have the reward. He said, and at times the increase for you would be that of reward. Subhanallah. And at times too, a person would receive a certain endowment from Allah, and if they thank Allah for that in the proper way, and they don't use it to commit a sin, they don't use it to show off, and so on, they would receive it again and again and again. Or, for example, it would be prolonged for them if it was something that came, that they received, like something that they attained, a certain special endowment, and they took care of that matter, it would be prolonged. And so they would continuously reap the benefits of it for however long Allah willed. At times, there would be endowments like that. He said, as for patience upon hardship, calamity, and affliction, it also means for you to adhere to God-fearingness. So you wouldn't leave out an obligation due to what you were afflicted with of hardship. Yani, again, some people, perhaps they pray, but when afflicted with a hardship, they stop praying. There are many people like this, that they would pray and they go to the masjid, for example, let's say some men, they go to the masjid, they pray in jama'ah or to the musalla, and when afflicted with a hardship, they stop going and they stop praying. So he's saying, you do not leave out an obligation due to what you were afflicted with of hardship. Yani, don't disobey Allah because of your hardship. For indeed, if the believer was tested and afflicted, and he was patient with that, he will benefit. And she will benefit. Either through his sins being erased, or by his status being raised, if he was someone that didn't have sins, for example. He said, and that is why if the believer was even pricked by a thorn, this will benefit him. Even the light pain, the slight pain that a Muslim experiences, or some sadness or distress or worry or tightness that you feel in your chest from some news that you heard, for example, that saddened you, even this, you are rewarded for it. So imagine what is bigger than that. Imagine what is more than that. You are rewarded for it. And this is from the endowments of Allah upon His believing slaves. And this is not for anyone except the Muslim, yani except the believer. Shaykh Husaam said, so Alhamdulillah for the endowment of Al-Iman, belief, which is the greatest of endowments. The greatest endowment is the endowment of having the correct belief, the correct creed. So hold tightly to it, he said, and be firm upon it. And again, he says, bite down on it with your molars, meaning hold tightly to it, hold fast to it. And do not dare sell your religion for any worldly commodity. He said, may Allah make me and you steadfast. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they advised each other with the truth and advised each other with patience, referring to what Allah the Exalted said in the Quran. I ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us to implement this beautiful advice. Allahumma ameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.